Hydraulics hiss as the bus begins to creep from the station into traffic. Wait! I round the corner in a full sprint. The bus begins to pick up speed. I kick it into high gear just to keep up and wave my arms frantically. Hey! I barely avoid running into a tree. Wait! I scream. Finally, the bus driver notices me. The bus pulls out of traffic and stops. Glass doors slide open, the driver glares at me. Panting, I climb aboard and give the driver a half-hearted smile. Better late than never? I chuckle nervously. Yep, that's about what happened with his email. Sorry I'm so late, you guys. Life got crazy, and I just kept pushing this email back until, well, now. But hey, I'm here, so it's gotta count for something. Anyway, this email may get a little, okay, let's be honest, a lot lengthy, but a significant amount of life has happened since I last sent one of these, so there's, quite a lot to catch you up on. So yeah, I don't know how long this email's gonna turn out, but buckle up, because the road is gonna get bumpy. Paul gasped. Hot, humid air filled his lungs. Sweat, matted hair clinged to his forehead, and he heard his heart pound rhythmically in his ears. His foot slapped against the black tar. Another step. The incline increased as the road began to coil up the hillside. He lowered his head and pressed on. His calves burned and screamed in protest. He choked down another breath. Sparks danced before his eyes. Finally, like a light at the far end of the tunnel, Coach's yell reached his ears. "Half a mile to go!" Paul closed his eyes for a moment. "Almost there," he promised himself. "Race pace," Coach finished. The light at the end of the tunnel turned into a train. A collective groan rose from the team. "Now!" Coach commanded. Paul grit his teeth and ran. Bile rose in his throat as Paul took his final step. He barfed. The stench filled his nostrils as he sucked in an awful breath. He heaved again. His stomach had tied himself into more knots than he could count. Gently, he eased himself to the ground. "Well done," Coach called as he walked amongst the team. He looked down at Paul and offered his hand. "Tomorrow, we do double that." Paul glanced up at the coach, and sweat stung his eyes. Coach's eyes met his, and slowly Paul took his hand. With the strength of the athlete he was, Coach yanked Paul to his feet. He slapped him on the back. "Good job, Paul," he said, and he turned to walk away. Paul panted. "Coach." Coach turned and raised an eyebrow. Paul rested his hands on his thighs. "Does it ever get easier?" Coach's firm gaze met Paul's. "No, but you get stronger." So this is kind of out of order, but I wrote this super short story while I was camping, and I just kind of I finished listening to this song by Manic Drive. Here's the link if you want to listen to it. And the music video is, well, man at best, so you can ignore that part. But anyway, the idea isn't original, but I thought the message was really cool. Guys, life isn't meant to get easier, especially not for us as Christians, but we do grow stronger. And the funny thing is we often forget growing stronger is kind of the point. It's like we're on a cross-country team, which granted not all of you can relate to, and most of you, even the idea of running makes you want to eat a donut, lounge on your couch and watch Netflix, so granted. But but we have this mentality of how many runs can I, get out of and still make the team? Like seriously, coach says, "Hey, some of us are going on a 7-mile run. You don't have to go, but I would strongly recommend it." And instead of us pushing through the pain and running, we're like, "Ha! You think I'm going to choose to run? Not on your life." Guys, being a Christian is kind of like being on a cross-country team, or any team for that matter. You don't have to come, you don't come to get a little shiny, "You made the team badge." You come to do your best and win. And yeah, no one likes suicide sprints, and no one likes push-ups. But you know what else no one likes? Sucking. So, let me tell you, there's a reason why Coach makes us do these things. It's so you don't suck. And personally, I know that if there's one thing I don't want to suck at, it's being a child of God. So if there's one thing I've realized in the past weeks is I really need to change my mindset. Those people who you can't stand, those people you can't stand, they're spiritual push-ups. Working hard in school? Yeah, that's a 7-mile run. The challenge, both to you and to me, is to stop avoiding things that make you stronger. There's a bunch of reasons why I might suck at being a Christian, but I never want to be because I didn't try to be one. Anyway, that was one of the things I learned over the last month, and so I've been doing all the, lessony stuff. And as someone once said, and so I'm done being all lessony, as someone once said. Let's see, what happened way back when? Well, at work, I got to water the flowers, and it was actually great, because I didn't have to talk to anyone. Raises his chin. My work was deemed, and I quote, "the most efficient watering job I've seen in a long time." You. I got top of my class in science. Me, nod slowly. Not bad, not bad. But do you have? Rips cheap plastic button from shirt. This! You squint at the button depicting a happy flower, and it reads, "most efficient watering job." Me, crosses his arms and raises an eyebrow. Not so smug now, are you? Yep, Nobel Prize has got nothing on me. The other thing that was interesting is my boss said, "I love you" to me after I agreed to take out the trash. I must seem like very son-like because I don't know how many middle-aged women reassuringly touch my shoulder. It's a lot. I mean, like, a lot. At first, I was really creeped out, but then I got kind of used to it. Also, I ate a Kool-Aid donut, which was absolutely horrible. What's the good thing that happened? Oh, the good thing that happened is my coworker Bridget gave me free ribs. That night, Grace and I went rollerblading. We saw a fox of all things, so let me show you that. I can't show you that because it's a picture. And we also saw a deer later that night, and I couldn't get a picture of it. Anyway, we were out for a while, and it was fun. The next day was the 4th of July, which was a big holiday here for all you Kiwis. And I wrote a depressing birthday song, which you don't get to have the liberty of hearing. And I went to the party at the Myers house. And it was pretty fun. We played a ton of volleyball, which was great. I didn't realize how much I love volleyball until recently, but it turns out I really enjoy it. Anyway, I played hard, and it was fun. And then after that, I went with my mom and Grace to see some fireworks at City Park. I could have gone either with the Myers or my coworkers because both invited me. My mom said that my family would be coming to see it, so I took one for the team and went with my cousins. But then David ditched me for his girlfriend, so I ended up not having that great of a time. Still wasn't that bad. I hadn't seen fireworks in like 3 years, and City Park in Fort Collins was crazy packed, so it wasn't as crazy packed as I remember it being, so, it was still good. There's some pictures of the fireworks, but you can't see those. The only thing is, I was too busy trying to take a cool picture that I kind of lost the moment. Like, I was more concerned about documenting the moment than actually living in it, and that's just kind of weird, because that never really happened to me before. Now I probably know how, everyone that actually takes pictures feels. Anyway, it was okay. Thankfully, it didn't rain on us. There were some cool clouds that day. And the next day, it was supposed to be off, but I took a coworker named Kylie's shift. It was her birthday, and I wasn't doing anything, so I figured I might as well. Anyway, work was boring, but when I got home, there was this massive hailstorm. Like, seriously, look at the size of this hail. Now, of course, I couldn't just let such an amazing storm escape. I love big storms. So I grabbed an umbrella and went out Kiwi style, I've grown attached to bare feet. Sad no one does it here. Anyway, it turns out that giant hail hitting your legs majorly hurts. So I tried to be a man, just suck it up. I gave up after like 3 hits to the calves. So yeah, I ran back inside, girded myself with a towel to protect my legs, and then ventured back into the night. I was out there for like over an hour. The hail didn't last too long. It was like about a fourth of the way through when the rain stopped. And there was just a ton of lightning. Like seriously, there were multiple flashes per second, like for a solid hour. I loved it. So yeah. I prayed a while as I walked, and that was good, but it turned into more of me like rambling at God than anything else. I'll be honest, I was out for a long time, and even my extended walk, I was kind of hoping God would show up, but he never did. So that was pretty disappointing, actually. But hey, God's the boss. If he doesn't want to say anything, I'm sure he has a good reason. So yeah, that was a bit of a bummer. The next day was probably the hardest work shift I've had, and I kind of failed at being cheery. I don't know, like the lack of God's action the previous night had kind of got me down, but I survived that day. Oh, and that night, I went to see a guy named Harold. And no, that's not Hal, just in case you thought that. Anyway, Dad's been looking for a car for me on Craigslist. It's like Trade Me. And he found one for $3,000, which is like all my money. And the previous day, him and my Uncle Dusty, who's really good with cars, checked it out. And it checked all the boxes. So Dad drove me out to see it, and I liked it. And I drove it around, and I talked with Harold. And he went down to $2,700 for me. So I went home, slept on it, and in the morning, I decided to buy the car. To be honest, it was a bit hard decision to make because I was like literally trading 270 hours of my life for a car. Like, that's a lot of life, you guys. But I did it. And when I came back to buy it, without me even asking, Harold went down another $100, which was really nice. He's a cool guy. Like, actually over like 70, a veteran and an engineer. He's also a Jehovah's Witness, so that was kind of interesting. He gave us pamphlets about questionable theology, but for once I decided not to debate. Anyway, I bought the car for $2,600 and signed the title, and I went home, and me and my bro played some Ultimate Frisbee with a guy named Noah. My family actually met him in New Zealand as a Cape Race student, and he happens to live in Colorado, so that's kind of crazy. And I watched Crash Course Psychology, so that was interesting. The next day I picked up my new car. It's a 2001 Honda Accord, and here's a picture. And yeah, I know it looks like an old person's car, but it does have a sunroof and it blow your ears off speakers, so I'm pretty happy. Anyway, I then drove to emissions testing, and it smelled kind of like an old guy, but oh well. It passed with flying colors, which was great, and then I got registered and licensed, which cost me like $300, and that was quite the boring excursion. After that, I went with my sis to a dollar store where we went on a shopping spree where we bought a bunch of useless items to fill my car, including an air freshener labeled Ocean Breeze. But it turns out the old man smell could not be so easily conquered, so they kind of ended up making Old Man Breeze. Oh, and I also filled bins with Lego and stuff that's on the seats in the back of my car. So if you ever read my car, yes, there is a substance of life, Lego. I also bought a cassette tape to aux converter so I could play my music, which I will say was a spectacular investment. I love my music so much. It was very worth it. Anyway, at this point, I was down $400 on my bank account, which was pretty painful. I got home, fell into the couch, and watched a movie with my mom. I have no idea why I watched as long as I did, but the movie was full of swearing and violence, and a horrible choice on my part, so yeah, that was my bad. The next day, I drove me and my mom to CEC, the high school I'm going to, and we got my schedule worked out. The guy said I would have to work hard, but if I could come out of it 2 years later with an associate's degree in arts, apparently I couldn't get an associate's degree in science because of my tight time frame. Who knows? I guess I'll get a degree in art. He said that it wouldn't really matter later on, though. All that matters is the other associates. So I hope he's right about that. After that, I drove down to the post office near my house, and my car, which I had owned for 1 day, broke down. drags his hand over face. Now that was a fun experience. The best part of that though was I walked home to search the internet to see if I could figure out what was wrong. And after a few trips, I tried turning on the car and it actually started. But then, this is the best part. See, instead of driving it home, I turned it back off to see if the trick I learned online was actually why it started. Face palms. Yeah, it wasn't. So I ended up just having to leave it there until my Uncle Dusty got off work and I told him what happened. And he just kind of looks at me and is like, so you got to start and then you turned it back off. And I just kind of chuckled like, yeah. Yep. I think I will be forever classified as at least 50% stupid. Try him. Anyway, it wasn't a hard fix. The starter was broken, and he helped me replace it. But that cost me another $120. So now I was really poor. I also finished a paper against the sensationalism around that time. The next day, I ran in the morning, and then counteracted all the fat I'd gained, or had lost, by going out for donuts with Grace. That night, me and Ben was nowhere to play kickball, which was honestly torture, because basically everyone was trash except for a few of us guys, and so I had to battle my competitive side the whole time. Outward me. Watch this girl kick the ball in a nice big arc, making it supremely easy for the opposing team to catch. Inwardly, rubs his shoulders. Easy, Alex. Easy. It's just a game. It's just a game, man. Anyway, I was actually happy when that ended. The next day, I did some mildly interesting things, which was... Next day, all I did that was mildly interesting was work, which frankly wasn't that interesting. Same story for the day after that and the day after that. The only thing different was the last day I let my boss know that I would be quitting in 2 weeks for school, and my coworker Bridget overheard and was surprisingly sad. She then proceeded to hug me of all things, which I really had to work hard not to recoil from. I mean, granted, the persona I put on certainly didn't seem opposed to hugs, but inwardly, the real me was like, oh no, run, punch her, anything! Also, I realized this might be important to clarify, but Bridget's like 50, so I don't think there's anything romantic going on there. I guess that was still good to know, though, that someone would miss me. After that, I went to a party at the Waves, which I'll be totally honest, I can't remember. I think we played a lot of basketball and soccer and volleyball, but I'm not really sure. After that, I hung out with Dad for a bit, some Five Guys fries, which, for all you Kiwis that are unfamiliar with them, they're like the best fries on the planet. Seriously, so good. After that, I went to Neo Group, and at the end, I got invited to play D&D with them. And yes, I know there's some strong believers out there that Dungeons & Dragons is a game from hell. But I consider the arguments, and I find them questionable at best. If any of you think that by playing this game I might be selling the soul to the devil, ask me for the paper I wrote on the subject, and I'll give you the reasons why I hold the views I do. Anyway, I'm pretty excited, and started thinking about what my character would be. Also, I didn't have any Neo groups since then, because Neo and Sydney got married, so they kind of dropped off the group for a while. Hopefully, they'll be resurfacing soon. Hopefully. Anyway, the next day I wrote a paper on D&D, and I talked about it, which I talked about, and then I went to a makerspace where things actually worked for once. All of you who actually make things will know that whenever you're trying to make something, it rarely goes as planned. So when it actually did go as planned, I was pretty stoked. The next day I had to work hard again. I told some people I was leaving. Most of them were apathetic, which, was slightly discouraging. I also started a short story called Qualian, which is based upon my idea of a mythical race I made up. I wrote like 1,000 or so words on it that day. The day after that, I went to the Myers house for youth group, but the older Myers kids weren't there, and got in yet another debate about free will. Gosh, Armenians are stubborn. Anyway, that time was fairly good because the debates were trash. Oh, wait. Because the debates were trash, but they were total mob debates. Anyway, I got whoever it is to speculate. Oh, man, this is hard. Anyway, I got to know someone who I speculate is a feeler, but he dabbles in theology, so I like him mostly. The next day, I got to a good stopping place in Qualian, around 2,000 words, and I worked on completing the biblical evidence from my Calvinist standpoint, which I can give you if you ask. I also talked to a friend from New Zealand over FaceTime, which was cool. That night, me, Mom, and Grace drove a little ways in the mountains to go camping, and here's a picture of that road. And we found this tiny spot, which wasn't going to work at all, but it was the only spot available, so Mom told me to set up the tent. But then, on a limb, she checked the remote part of the campsite and found this amazing spot, which turned out to be a huge blessing, and so she has to move there. So she had me pick up the tent, which I wasn't going to undo all the work I did, so I decided to just carry it a half mile to the other side. And here's a picture of me doing that. The tent was like super light, so that was easy. Anyway, Mom and work in the morning, and Grace had... Oh, Mom had work in the morning, and Grace had something, I can't remember what. So left me there overnight to save the spot. And oh my gosh, it was amazing. It was the first time I spent a night camping alone, and I found this rock where I could worship, and it was so cool. This was my view, which you can't see. Later, my mom stalked me and took a picture of me up there. So this is what it looked like from the bottom. Anyway, it was great. At the end of my worship session was when I wrote the running short story you read at the start. Also, I did some stargazing that night, which was awesome. So next morning, literally all I did was write. Like, for over 5 hours straight, I just worked on Qualian, and it was really good. I'll confess my brain began to feel like mush toward the end. And after like 6 hours by myself, I got a little bored. But honestly, I forgot how much time I like spending time alone. Like, unless you're super extroverted, I highly recommend spending a day with just God out in the bush. Really good. Later that day, our family friends, the Macy's, arrived and set up camp. We were camping with them, and it was pretty awkward because they were not really my friends. They're more like my parents' friends. Though I would say I'm friends with Amelia, their oldest daughter. She's an INFJ by my speculation, and a writer, so we got along pretty well. But she is a girl, so it's kind of awkward. Anyway, all my family, except Dad, got there like an hour later, and it wasn't awkward anymore, so that was good. We played a game called Catchphrase. I'm sure you've heard of it. And me and Ben hiked up the mountain on the other side of the river. But yeah, that was good. Me and Ben got to talk some. And then I spontaneously jumped in the river with him, which was meh, not really one for spontaneity. Then I had a so-so worship session and had a debate with Amelia about if learning history was worthwhile. She's a history geek, of course, and she was adamant it was, but I was able to prove learning philosophy was of far more use individually. The part where we disagreed, though, was that I argued that if you know something is better use of your time and you're able to do that thing, then you are obligated to do that thing. She, on the other hand, thought we weren't obligated to do anything as Christians, which I strongly disagreed with. The problem was I couldn't remember the references to the verses off the top of my head, so I couldn't use the power of the internet, so it was much more difficult to prove my point than it needed to be. Anyway, I scrounged up some subpar verses only to have Amelia exiled to bed by her mother. I don't know why moms think trivial things like sleep are more important than debate. So that was the end of my and Amelia's debates, which was sad. The next day, I did a bit of morning Bible reading, and then I went out four-wheeling with the Wades, which happens to be, who happened to be around, and they saw us yesterday. And now I'd never gone four-wheeling before, but it's basically like rock climbing for cars. It's honestly more strategy than anything else. You have to place your tires in just the right spaces, or else bad things happen and you and your car just die. But yeah, there's a picture, if you could see what I mean. A lot of people, like being outside, but I thought it was way more fun to be inside the car. Seriously, it feels so sketchy. Like, you're sure the car is going to roll at points, but it just doesn't. Anyway, I didn't do any of the actual driving, because, in case you're wondering, I wouldn't have succeeded. But it was still really cool to ride. I'm amazed those cars just came out of that trip intact. Like, crazy. So yeah, with the Waves for like 4 hours, it was pretty fun. When we got back, it rained some, and me and Amelia exchanged writing. She's pretty darn good, actually. I think she's better than I am when I was at 16. Anyway, we did some nerding out for a bit, and we gave each other advice. And after that night fell, our families hung out around the campfire and talked. We drove home the next day, and I worked some more on Qualian. We also checked out the house tonight. Check out the house we're going to move into. And the weird thing is, the house it's the house I lived at when I was 15, right before I came to New Zealand. It's janky at best, and it's my grandma's old house, but it's still cool to be back. There are some pictures if you're curious. So yeah, the renters moved out, and honestly, it was looking pretty good for us after being gone for like 3 years. I then caught up on some of my emails, got frozen yogurt with the fam, and talked about with an unnamed being from New Zealand who filled me in on how the reunion went. That was great. The next day was spent between the makerspace, finishing Qualian, in the end, which turned out to be like 11,000 words. If any of you are brave enough to read it, just ask, because I think it's probably my best work yet. And the day after that, Grace brought home a puppy, which she's very, very excited about. And although as a general rule of thumb, I like cats better than dogs, this puppy was abnormally attractive. You see, I was going to use that fake word that starts with a C, but I'm currently boycotting such a word, so I didn't. It's worse, than sure. Anyway, she was very excited, and here's a picture. And before you ask me what kind of dog it is, I don't know. All I know is it's called a miniature Aussie Shepherd something, and it's extremely purebred. The other cool thing that happened that night is a bunch of Cape Ray students from New Zealand came over. And it's crazy, like 8 people we had seen at various points in time just arrived at our house, including Yarnin, which was awesome. And he's doing well, by the way. Anyway, it was cool, and everyone solved my invincible Lego puzzle, so that was fun having that be relevant again. And yeah, it was a pretty good day. The day after that, I met with this guy named Micah from Antioch, and that was good-ish. He talked a lot, and I could tell he wasn't equipped for thinkers, because when I challenged his attacks against evolution, he skillfully maneuvered the conversation away from the subject. He did that a lot, actually. He would always wiggle away from answering my objections. Gotta give him credit, though. He was like the most skilled person I've ever seen at getting out of a tough spot. As far as the whole evolution or creation debate goes, I'm currently thinking evolution is more convincing, but I haven't come to a conclusion quite yet. I'm still hoping to finish that paper sometime. Anyway, the talk with him was good, not just educational, so I said my goodbyes, and we'll probably never see him again. I then worked for a while and went to youth group that night, and I remember being really tired because I had to get 6 to see this Micah guy. The next day consisted of more work, and I got to know my coworker Kylie a bit better. I shared Qualian with her, and after she read it, she seemed to open up. She's a writer too, and a legit one, more legit than me. I don't know about her skill level, but she's written several books. Several! Do you know how much work that is? So yeah, she's earned my respect. But she's also kind of socially awkward, so I think I'm gonna hang out. I'm gonna hang with her to try and help her out. Is anyone noticing a pattern with me and socially awkward girls? Should I be concerned? Oh, the other crazy thing is that day I saw my 2nd grade teacher, King Supers. That was crazy. The next day was the last day of work, and boy was I tired. They had worked for 4 8-hour days in a row, and I was pretty exhausted. The manager was sad to see me go, and so they gave me a cake, and that was cool. It was actually a pretty good cake. Anyway, after that, I helped move some of my cousins from California. Remember the cousins way back we stayed in California? Yeah, those ones. So I kind of just jumped from one crazy thing to the next. Toby and Sam slept at our house. In the morning, we drove us downtown, and we played at parks, and Sam and Ben scrounged for free money. We also got soda, and may I tell you, well, They were... Oh, while they were here, we drank so much soda. Like, if I get diabetes, I'll know exactly why. Anyway, I paid for the first in a very long line of sodas, and we drove around listening to my Boss epic music as it pumped. Yes, I'm one of those guys. And it was great. The next day, we drove to Estes Park, and that was cool. I hung at the library, responded to some emails I was behind on, and then hung out with Toby for a bit. Oh, and the greatest thing happened to Sam. So he was biting some soup, right, and got some on his finger. And so I think... Oh, he went to lick it, but he totally spaced. There was a sheet of glass right in front of him. So he licks the glass, and right after he licks it, he gets napkins and wipes it off, and then throws the napkin in the soup bowl, thinking it was the trash can. Yeah, it was great. So yeah, Estes was cool, and there was a lot of stuff there that I'm leaving out, but this email is already super long as it is, so I'm sure you'll forgive me. The other noble thing is Ben and Sam got more change while we were out there, and so we bought like a total of $20 worth of stuff, which is not too shabby. The next day, we hung out, did stuff. I went to the summer for laser tag. I got second the first round, first like 6 times in a row, and then got destroyed by Ben in the last round. But we were, squatting, so I wasn't doing my typical lone wolf thing. That just shows, that just shows why stares dramatically in the distance and thunder booms. I work alone. Anyway, the next day, Uncle Dusty helped me change the oil in my car, which is the first time I've done that, and I might say it was quite the messy experience. But I got it done, and should know how to do it next time, so that's good. We did more stuff the next day, got frozen yogurt with the gift cards. Toby and Sam's grandparents had given us for cleaning the mold off the side of their house. And here I was thinking cleaning mold off windows and journey was hard. And I had conversations with the neighbors who came over. They were nice, not really debate types, and I'm pretty sure I was classified as stuck up by their know-it-all wife, but can't please everyone. The next morning, we had more frozen yogurt, played more groundies, ate some Five Guys. There was this kid running the counter who just kept staring at Ben and I, as I'm sure he was like... He looked like my childhood friend Caleb. And after a lot of debate between us, my dad got fed up and just asked. And basically he was not Caleb. But we never figured out why he was staring at us. So I guess that shall remain a mystery. The day after that, at Toby and Sam's grandparents, we moved some stuff some more. And the next we went to church at Antioch. I haven't been going to life group for like over a month, so I really need to do that. And when we got back, me and Sam went rollerblading. And guess what we ended up talking about? Free will. Gosh, I had this conversation so much. I might as well just record myself and play it back every time someone mentions the word. Seriously, I'm not even trying to start these debates anymore. I'm just surrounded by our minions. Anyway, Sam and his family were like hardcore charismatic, of course, so it was a debate that would pop up sooner or later. The other thing we ended up arguing about was whether God was forced to abide by the laws of logic. Psst. The answer is yes, by the way. So that was fun. And if you disagree, I have wrote a paper that's just waiting to prove you wrong. Anyway, after that, the family went to a barbecue at the Wade's house, and I played basketball and soccer. Destroyed in soccer, by the way. And that night, I played some more laser tag at the summit until midnight. At the end of all of it, I was just so tired. I met my friend from freshman year at the summit just by chance, and that was cool. I think he might arrange a get-together for us to get the old game together if that happens. The next day was our last day with the cousins. Toby and I fixed a tree fort in our front yard. Maybe you guys will see that sometime. And we had a sweetie birthday party for Toby and Ben with dry ice, which turns out to be pretty cool stuff. And if you're wondering what's happening in the picture, it's a paper plate holding like soda with dry ice in it. And it's freezing little drops of sour juice on the candy. Anyway, it's not quite typical, but it was fun. So then I finally got some peace and quiet that evening. And no, I didn't mind my cousin's social interaction, but 24/7 a week, that's exhausting. And the next day, I started working on this email, and I drove to the makerspace. My phone case is almost done. Both halves of the mold are printed. But I've been having some trouble with the rubber. If I'm optimistic, I'll have the case finished next time I come back. And that brings us to today, where I have spent almost the whole day writing this email with a brief interval for a haircut. Man, that was long. Actually, only 6,000 words, so not that bad considering all the stuff that happened. Puts hands in hips as he admires his work. Not bad if I do say so myself. Alright guys, well you've survived yet another Life of Email. I have no idea what's going to happen in the future, and if I'll be able to keep things up. But school starts in the morrow, and my 8 or so months of summer is about to come to an end. So yeah, I'll do what I can, and I would love to hear what's been happening in your lives. Talk to you soon.